there's every reason to believe that he'll be a candidate. That's not guaranteed until it's guaranteed, and I believe he's going to be overwhelmingly supported and almost certainly reelected, barring any additional, electoral-related issues that existed in 2020, almost certainly.
Why this battle in Wyoming, Liz Cheney's position is so important?
Well, I think it's really a battle over the heart, soul, and direction of the Republican Party in the country. Most of us, I think, have come around to recognize that the Trump positions, on trade, on the border, on recognizing the threat, I think that's increasingly recognized in the Communist Party of China, are serious. And yet we have, I think, in Liz Cheney, sort of a yesterday's Republican who feels very threatened by Trump, and I think has, particularly in the January 6th commission and both her participation in it, her leadership, and her acceptance of these really autocratic, wholly unprecedented procedures that have been used in denying proper representation to alternative views, and allowing cross-examination of witnesses, allowing the ability to call witnesses, having Republicans even on there that were appointed by Republican leadership. I mean, this has been disgraceful across the board. So both her vote to impeach President Trump, she was one of only 10 Republicans to join in that, and her handling, I think, of this January 6th commission and her role in it and her positions in it have really gone over very unpopularly in Wyoming, where she frankly has not spent much time over the last few years. And it's been...
Yeah, I mean, we should just remind people listening that Liz Cheney was at one stage a very staunch supporter of Donald Trump, but she then did become one of the leading critics, and she clearly felt very strongly that Donald Trump had taken the wrong path when it came to challenging the election result and his handling of the riots at the Capitol on January the 6th.
Yeah, and yet when you listen to what she actually talks about and what they've tried to present, with great fanfare and a lot of even Hollywood input on how to structure this thing to appeal to the American people, it's completely fallen short because there's no substance to it. Trump called for the protesters in the Capitol to stop. He condemned the violence. His speech itself even referenced peacefully protesting, which you could easily have seen being omitted and just being taken for granted. There was no role that Trump played in what happened. And
well, that, of course, is the subject to this big investigation, isn't it, by this congressional committee?
Yeah, but I think we're now basically through it, and the conclusion of the American people who've glued into it is that they really uncovered no substance, and even were unable to uncover any substance, monopolizing the procedures in ways that really didn't allow alternative views, cross-examination, alternative views, or even the very question of Nancy Pelosi and even the FBI's involvement.
Let me ask you about Donald Trump. We have, of course, had this very high-profile FBI raid on the Mar-a-Lago ranch.
Right.
And the suggestion is that Donald Trump has improperly taken government records when he left office. How damaging do you think this is for Donald Trump?
Well, he always had to get out too far ahead of it because, there's certainly probably news on both sides of this that we may not be privy to at this point. But let me just say the raid itself, to me, seemed completely unjustified, unconstitutional, and almost certainly politically motivated. In fact, some of the boxes that were taken out of his residence were attorney-client privilege related. And he had been involved in discussions as it related to the handling of those documents. He also, it's important to point out, when he left the White House as president, when those boxes were being put together, was capable of declassifying anything that he wanted to declassify. So it'll be interesting to see. I feel this is another fishing expedition designed really to see if they can acquire information that could be used in other capacities, and it's a complete violation, I believe, of the former president's constitutional rights, and it is a warrant that really didn't have the basis of probable cause, which is why, very unusually, they got the warrant issued in South Florida, not out of the D.C.-based federal courts where you typically would secure something for this. They also didn't run it through the Office of Legal Counsel and the Justice Department. They didn't follow any of the procedures. Then they lied to the public about the role that Merrick Garland, the Attorney General, had in this, which is always just very unsettling. I realize it's politics and there is misrepresentation, but out of the Justice Department, you don't ever want to see that. I don't want to see it. And it's uncomfortable for a lot of Americans, to really be reaching this conclusion that we have a politicization of justice at the highest levels of the American government. I think that's
and is it your understanding that Donald Trump's passport has now been taken, because there was a suggestion that he was due to come to Scotland? Is it your understanding that his passport has actually also been taken by the FBI?
Right. Now, it suggests that's been taken without due process. I mean, those are procedural issues that you go through before a judge as it relates to, flight risks and we don't even really fully understand, like from an arraignment standpoint, what these criminal charges are. There's sort of suggestions of it. And I think it's been utterly politicized and miscommunicated really by this Justice Department. And most glaringly, and I think appallingly, to have them issue statements that the Attorney General had no role in it. And, it was a completely just an FBI-related decision, and then have to very quickly, after that was proven inaccurate, come out and say, oh, yeah, by the way, it was authorized by the Attorney General, to me reflects very poorly on him. In fact, and I believe you're going to see, as Republicans lead to a really substantial victory in November, almost certainly.
This is just one of a number of investigations that Donald Trump is facing at the moment. I mean, where do you think it leaves his possible ambitions to run again in 2024? Do you think Donald Trump is planning to run again in a couple of years' time?
Well, the counsel that I've offered, which I think would make sense, is that absent this raid, I could certainly understand, taking a few more months to make that decision. I think at this juncture he should come out and make the announcement. There is a clear politicization and everything going in the wrong direction in this country, and he's got broad support within the party. Getting out front now and leading, as he is really the leader of the party, is beneficial not just to his own political aspirations and his candidacy, but I believe also to the country, who are looking for it. There's a lot of fear in the United States right now. I mean, there is in Europe and there is around the world with this current state of affairs the last few years. But I would think that is my experience, is that that's the most prevailing sentiment that exists right now. And the best way to address fear as it relates to the direction of high-level government policies is to, have leadership proactively involved in communicating. And it's a shame that we
and just briefly, if you could, do you think that Donald Trump's going to be listening to your advice? Do you think he is going to run?
I think there's a whole bunch of considerations, including what he perceives to be his. I mean, obviously, he wants to see a very positive outcome in these 2022 elections in November, so that's one consideration. But my instinct is there's every reason to believe that he'll be a candidate. That's not guaranteed until it's guaranteed, and it's not guaranteed right now because obviously there still are considerations, or he would have announced. But if I were asked to put my betting money down, I believe that he will, and I believe he's going to be overwhelmingly supported and almost certainly reelected, barring any additional electoral related issues that existed in 2020, almost certainly.